Heavily armed, as always. It is great to have you along for the best damn 2 hours of radio programming available not only in New Hampshire, but in Massachusetts as well. The Daily Review can be heard each and every weekday starting at 2 p.m., broadcasting from our home station in Nashua, New Hampshire, 95.3 FM and 1590 AM WSMN. The program is distributed via the Patriot Nation Radio Network, Global Star Radio Network, K-Star Radio Network, and Right America Media. You can listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.live. at rightamericamedia.com or through the TuneIn app. Just head over to the iPhone or Android store, download the TuneIn app. It is free. Search for WSMN, and you can take the program or any of the programs on the station on the go with you, including the 9 p.m. Keith Hanson Show, anywhere you happen to be. If you'd like to check out live streaming video of the Nashua Turret, that's available at WSMN.live as well. My email, as always, keithontheair@gmail.com. That's keithontheair@gmail.com. Good, bad, or indifferent, please keep those emails coming in. Certainly do appreciate reading your thoughts each and every day. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Parler. My handle on both, @RealKeithHanson. That's @RealKeithHanson on Parler and Twitter. I heard a rumor today, can I be honest, that Parler is not going to be making a comeback. I don't know. We will wait with bated breath and see what the free market determines. But in any event, any of these social media platforms, I typically keep the same handles, either at, if there's an or an at sign in front of it, at Real Keith Hanson or Keith on the Air. Facebook at facebook.com/Keith on the Air. And the call-in number, if you'd like to be a part of today's program, make that nice and easy for you. 603-816-1590. That's 603-816-1590. Let your voice be heard. And acknowledging one today behind the board in the Nashua Turret, working hard to make sure that everything stays plugged in and sounding good between the bunker and the turret. The bunker, of course, up here in Grantham. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, my brother from another mother. How are things going up there?
You sound like you're in a remarkably jovial mood today.
Well, every now and then you got to be happy, right? In today's world, you have to make yourself happy. So,
you're going to make me...
I'm behind the board. I'm listening to the great Keith Hanson. Hey, how better life can be.
Well, first of all, now you're going to make me want to play Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy as some bump music. But then again, I will share with listeners what I tell you all of the time when you're listening to my radio product, which is...
No, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I know. The goosebumps will go away in about an hour.
That's correct. The goosebumps, don't worry, the goosebumps will go away in about an hour. See, that's how well you know me. Well, we have got a great show coming up for you today, and we're going to be talking about something that is a relatively breaking news story here. This is something that is trending now nationally. If you didn't happen to catch the article on Gateway Pundit, headline, they got caught. Dominion-owned voting machines removing 6% of votes from each Windham, New Hampshire GOP candidate. These same machines have been used in 85% of towns. So we're going to be talking with a couple of gentlemen who are on the forefront of this investigation. I can tell you right now, I had an extensive conversation with Skip Murphy from Granite Grok this morning. They are simulcasting this broadcast as well, and there will be a video feed of this program that will be put up on social media as well. That being said, a number of right-to-know requests have been filed. This is going to turn into, I think, a pretty major story. It's like I said, it's already trending nationally. So we did bump a couple of our guests who are scheduled to be on in the first segment. Normally, Dave Ray from the Federation for American Immigration Reform, he would be in this opening segment. We're going to put Dave off until tomorrow. Dave, completely understanding what's going on here in New Hampshire, said, yes, that takes precedent. Let's go ahead and do that. So Tom Murray is going to be joining me in segment number 1, and I would imagine that this conversation is going to spill over into segment number 2. Coming up in the third segment, 307, Sam Sorbo. If you remember her, she used to be a nationally syndicated talk radio show host. She is the wife of Kevin Sorbo. Remember, what was he? Was he Hercules, or was he? Help me out here, Juan. Who was Kevin Sorbo? Was the actor who played? Was it Hercules? Do you know? All right, Juan checked out. He's on permanent vacation. Anyway, so she's been around. She's a filmmaker, radio host, actress, international activist, author. She's actually a huge advocate of homeschooling as well too. So we're going to be talking about words for warriors fighting back against crazy socialists and the toxic liberal left. It's going to be a great conversation that'll be coming up at 3:07, and then we'll be checking in with Daniel Miller, Daniel Miller is the president of the Texas Nationalist Movement and author of Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. That will be coming up at 3:37. All right, for the time being right now, and I mentioned this earlier at the top of the hour, and the headline yesterday from the Gateway Pundit, they got caught. Dominion-owned machines removing 6% of votes from each Windham, New Hampshire Republican candidate. These are the same machines that have been used in 85% of towns across the state. A recent hand count in the Rockingham District 7 New Hampshire House race in Windham found that the machines owned by Dominion shorted every Republican by approximately 300 votes. One particular race, the recount showed 297, then 299, then 303, then 298. So is there malfeasance here? Well, these machines counted results incorrectly for all four Republicans within 2 or 3 votes of 300. According to a report in the Granite Grok, the town of Windham used Dominion machines to count paper ballots, and upon a believable hand count, it was confirmed each Republican was machine cheated out of roughly 300 votes. You would think this would have been solved by the Dominion Machine Company, the Secretary of State, the election units of the Attorney General's office, or the Laughable Ballot Law Commission. That's Kathy Sullivan, if you remember her, the former chair of the New Hampshire Democrat Party. Nope. Just like every other state that used machines that alter ballot counts in favor of one political party over another, here we are. Dominion Voting Systems owns the intellectual property of the AccuVote machines used in New Hampshire, according to a report on Patch.com. Quote, in New Hampshire, the AccuVote optical scanners used in all communities that have voting machines are a, quote, older technology, and each moderator uses the device's results tape at the end of the night to reveal the results on a paper return of votes form. AccuVote devices have been used for more than a quarter century in the state and are the only devices approved by the Ballot Law Commission. Quote, the device was originally manufactured by Unisys, then by Global Election Systems, Inc., which are no longer in business, according to a gentleman by the name of Yen. The device used in New Hampshire is no longer being manufactured. Dominion Voting Systems owns the intellectual property of the AccuVote and its related election management system, but does not manufacture the device. On Thursday, Dr. David Strang, the Belknap County Republican Committee State Committee member, and I believe he's the treasurer as well of Belknap County, told the Gateway Pundit that Republican candidates in Windham had 6% of their total votes removed by the Dominion-owned voting machines. According to Dr. Strang, the same Dominion-owned machines are used in 85% of the towns in New Hampshire. Now, here's the big issue. And by the way, I have to take fault with the NHGOP for being silent. Think about this. Republicans flipped the New Hampshire Senate from 14 to 10 Democrat to 14 to 10 Republican. Republicans flipped the New Hampshire House from a Democrat majority of 230 to 156 to a Republican majority of 213 to 187. Yet Joe Biden, who came in 4th in the First in the Nation primary, and Kamala Harris, who didn't even make it to the primary, beat Donald Trump in the state of New Hampshire 52.7% to 45.4%. Let me tell you something, kids. Something smells like rotten fish. But yet, where is the exalted grand leader of the New Hampshire Republican Party? Silent. Where is the exalted grand leader of the, well, I mean, you could call him the de facto leader of the New Hampshire Republican Party, Christopher Sununu? Silent. Because the New Hampshire Republican Party, and specifically its de facto head, which is not Stephen Stepanek, by the way, it is Chris Sununu, is not about to bring light to this issue. No. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to say there's nothing to see here because we have to protect. We have to protect the fact that there are so many left of center Democrats that would vote for us in our yet to be announced Sununu for Senate 2022 campaign. Isn't that right, Christopher? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. 816-1590. You were never, ever afraid to come on my program until I started taking you to task for what you are. A swamp rat. Defend yourself, Chris. Don't be a Ray Buckley and shy away from the conversation. I'm not going to hold my breath. Something smells rotten. Whether or not we're going to get to the bottom of this, and I mean, is this going to change anything right now? Well, maybe not for the 2022 election, or 2020 election, excuse me. Maybe for 2022. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, if you had, and of course I did not win the chair's race. If I had, I would be screaming from the highest mountain for an investigation into this. As a matter of fact, get these damned electronic voting machines the hell out of there. We're not talking about Manhattan population numbers, Boston population numbers, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles population numbers here, kids. We're talking about a population statewide of 1.2 and change million people. Hand count the sons of bitches. But no, we have to take the easy way out. And I got to tell you something. For me personally, I'm not saying that Dominion did anything wrong here. I don't necessarily think Dominion did anything wrong any more than I would say that Colt Firearms is responsible for the firearm that was manufactured that was used in the Sandy Hook shootings. The equipment is what the equipment is. But who is overseeing those elections? And are there shortcomings in those machines or in the software that can be manipulated? I don't know, but I got to tell you something. Again, something doesn't smell right. Joining me on the WSMN phone line, Tom Murray, who served locally on a zoning board for 7 years, served on school board as vice chairman for 3 years, and Ken Eyring served as a former chairman of the Windham School Board. They are leading this investigation. They are working directly with a good friend of the program here, Ed Nail from the Coalition for New Hampshire Taxpayers, also working very closely with Skip over at Granite Rock, who published this story that is now trending nationally. Tom and Ken both joining me on the WSMN phone line. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Welcome. Tom, I want to start with you. What got you involved in this, in this debacle, for lack of a better term?
Well, first of all, Keith, thanks for having us on. I appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
For myself, just a concerned citizen. I really would just like to know if my vote counts. It's really that simple for me. Obviously, I actually had worked in a capacity at the elections. I was at the new voter registration table. I was present when they announced the results. Shortly thereafter, the following day, too, it was apparent that the lowest Republican vote getter was within 24 votes of the highest Democratic vote getter, and therefore there was a recount. I followed it very closely. Ken Eyring actually attended, and both myself and Ken subsequently attended the ballot commission hearing where the recount was questioned and challenged. And I have been frequently in contact with Assistant Attorney General Nicholas Chen. I converse with him weekly. As early as last week, we've been exchanging emails and phone conversations. And quite frankly, I'm concerned that nothing meaningful is going to come of what has happened in this election result. And that being that there's a significant discrepancy of 300 votes on average for the Republican candidates, but additionally 99 votes too many were given to the Democratic candidate, and meaningful answers to the questions that have been asked of both the local election officials as well as ballot commission, as well as Attorney General, Secretary of State, all the above, and just the lack of just simple responses, and I find it troublesome.
Now, on the Granite Grok report and also the Gateway Pundit report, there was a spreadsheet that showed the numbers here. Now we're looking at Republican candidate Sodi with a 297 vote deficit. Let's see, Griffin was 299. Lynn with 303, McMahon with 298. Now, there were some voting discrepancies in the interest of full disclosure. There were some cast ballot versus recount ballot number discrepancies with Democrats as well. Can you cover those as well and talk to us about what the differences were and the scope to which the disparities in machine votes versus hand-counted verified votes, what the spread actually looked like?
Yeah, you know what, Ken's standing right next to me. I'll have him take that question because he has the graph right in front of him.
Okay.
And by the way, that graph that you're referencing, that was provided by the Secretary of State's office. All the data that we'll speak to has all been data that's been provided to us through various right-to-know requests pursuant to 91A.
Okay.
You're right. It's not unusual for a small number of votes to change during a recount, but the reported numbers that took place in Windham's Republican, for the Republican, as you pointed out, were close to 300. And the numbers that came through for Christy St. Laurent, she actually had her votes tallied to be 99 more than were actually cast. Now, the votes that were within a normal range after the recount were those for the other three Democratic candidates. Valerie Roman picked up 28 votes. Henry Azadare picked up 21, and Leona Singaru picked up 18 votes. Those are all within the range of acceptable. But when you're outside of the range by 2.3% for Christie, she actually received 2.3% less votes than she was tallied to have had on election night. And for all the Republican candidates, they received 5.6 to 6.6% more after the recount. And, it's just not acceptable. And just to put that into perspective, Christie's margin of loss on election night was 0.005% to Julia Sodi. After the recount, that jumped to 9.6%. It's not even close. It's not even worthy of a recount. That's a huge difference.
Now, I mean, it's not. It doesn't boil down to an issue of wins and losses here. I mean, it's not like seats are going to be flipped here. I mean, when you look at the margins here, I mean, this was a decided Republican victory. But still, I mean, I think one of the big issues that comes up, and one of the big questions that a lot of people that I've spoken with have that they cannot reconcile in their head is, how did we flip our New Hampshire Senate from 1410 Democrat to 1410 Republican? How did we flip our New Hampshire House from a Democrat majority of 230 to 156 to a Republican majority of 213 to 187? Yet Sleepy Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who I mean wasn't even tracking in New Hampshire, they win the state 52.7 to 45.4% for Donald Trump. That doesn't add up. Something is not right about those numbers. But yet there is silence. You will not hear a peep out of the Attorney General's office. You don't hear a peep out of certainly you would expect to hear it coming from the leadership of the state Republican Party. Nothing. Nada. Zip, zero, zilch. Alice doesn't live here anymore. And Chris Sununu, silent. In fact, if you even talk about this to any of the Republican leadership in the state of New Hampshire, you're a whacked-out right-wing conspiracy theorist who should spend your time making quality tinfoil helmets and less time opining on a politics in the Granite State.
And Keith, I'd like to add to that. I was, as part of the 91A, able to get a hold of all the tally tapes for every machine. We had 4 ballot machines in our district. And I think what is notable to what you just mentioned was, in fact, when you look at the percentage of votes on machine 1, 2, 3, and 4, they read machine 1, 57.4% for Trump, 40.3% for Biden. I'll skip 2, get back to that in a minute. Machine number 3, 56.9%, 40.8% Biden. and machine 4, 57%, and 40.3% to Biden, all consistent. Machine 2, however, shows the inverse, 58.3% to Biden versus 38.9%. And that's one of the anomalies, along with the number of overvotes that show on that particular machine, 292, compared to 18 on machine 1, 84 on 3, and 67 on 4. And that's the data that's on the tally tapes. That's the data. This is not my data. This is the data that was given to me.
Ken, I hate to interrupt you here. We're coming up on a hard commercial break. I'm going to jump to the commercial break. I'm going to bring you and Tom both back on to continue this conversation right after this hard break. You are listening to the Thursday edition of the Daily Review with me, Keith Hanson. News, sports, weather coming up. Then we're going to continue the conversation about the election debacle down in Windham with Tom Murray and Ken Eyring. Stick around. Much more coming up right after this.
Following President Trump's marching orders.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says a coronavirus stimulus plan is necessary as House